right, thank you.
I'm gonna say Tyler.
Oh, that's not it. And so here we are. We're at Maui Kuia Estates. So that space back there where we all met up, that's going to be our retail space. It's also going to be our factory. So we'll make all those pieces right back there.
This is my church.
And so we opened our doors in March of 2020, just 2 days before having to shut right back down for COVID. Pretty good timing on our part, right? A little perseverance, so we're still here. We're making chocolate. And so real quick, before we get too far away, did anybody park in that garage behind our facility?
Yeah.
It's actually a tow-away zone. She gets the joke. All right, first bad joke of the tour, guys. So that garage back there, that's actually going to house about 900 solar panels. And now those 900 solar panels, they're going to feed into 5 commercial Tesla batteries. That's going to allow us to have our entire chocolate making operation 100% off the grid. Something we're pretty excited about. We have 2 main goals. We want to give back to the environment as much as possible. We also want to give back to the local community as much as possible. So to give back to the community, we are also 100% not-for-profit. So all those profits are going to be donated to over 30 different charitable organizations, primarily focused here in Hawaii, but some bigger ones like Habitat as well. So we'll take a minute to talk about our CEO and founder, Gunners Valkyrs. Now Gunners is originally from San Diego. He's born and raised San Diego. His parents were from Latvia, and they were citrus farmers. So Gunners goes on to get a PhD in biophysics from UCSD, and with that degree goes on to found a company named BioSite. And now BioSite was responsible for the first at-home visible pregnancy test. So as you can imagine, a pretty successful company. However, in 2007, Gunners and his partners decided to sell this company. And I don't know about you guys, but if I were to sell a company like that, you know, I'd probably never work again. Maybe buy a house here in Maui. And so that was the plan. Him and his wife in 2010, they got a 3-acre estate in Kapalua, just 20 minutes north of Lahaina. And they moved in, they were enjoying their retirement, they planted some citrus trees, they learned to windsurf, got to know some people in the community. But you know, a man like Gunners with that PhD in biophysics, he's not going to be able to sit idle for too long. So he began to envision a sort of passion project, something that he could really pour his heart into during his retirement. So about this time, Gunners meets a man named Dan O'Doherty. Now Dan O'Doherty is a cacao specialist. He flies all around the world consulting with different cacao farms. He has a master's degree in botany from UH Manoa. He's also one of only 2 people in the state with a special license allowing him to bring plants in and off the island. And so at the time, Dan was the head of a field trial through UH Manoa. What they were doing is they were trying to find suitable growing conditions for cacao here on the islands. So they got to talking. Gunners kind of fancied himself a chocolate farmer, so he has to be a part of this trial. So Dan gave him some of these trees to plant at his estate in Kapalua. And now the thing with our cacao trees is they are highly susceptible to direct sunlight and strong wind. Now we have some pretty strong trade winds that rip on that side of the island. So unfortunately that first attempt there at his estate was a failure. None of those trees made it. Pretty sad stuff. So that didn't stop these guys though. They began looking for a new place to grow their trees. So as we come in through this gate here, all this empty land out in front of us, all this barren land, this is going to be owned by the King Kamehameha Bishop School Trust. Now they are the largest private landowner in all of Hawaii. They hold about 360,000 acres across the state. So what they do is they're going to hold these lands, they're going to ensure that no one's ever going to develop up here. You're never going to look on this hillside and see golf courses or resorts. So what happens is that farmers are going to reach out with their agricultural plan. They're going to try to secure a lease. Now we were able to procure a 60-acre lease. And now with the money from those leases, they're going to take that and put it right back into the school systems here in Hawaii. There's just another great way we're able to give back a little bit.
Can I use your pen?
Oh yeah, absolutely. And so all this land out here, this was all agricultural land for quite some time. Now do we have any guesses of what may have been grown here in this field? Any guesses? Sugarcane. So this was all sugarcane here, about 1,200 acres of it. That would have gone from the tree line up in the West Maui Mountains to the tree line down in Lahaina town. Now that was operated by the Pioneer Mill Sugar Company. They operated this field from 1849 to 1999. So 150 years of sugarcane production done right here. Now if we look off to our right, we're going to look down into Lahaina town. We're going to see that large smokestack situated in the center of town. Now that is going to be some of the last visible remnants of that sugarcane industry. So what they would do is they're going to grow that cane up here, harvest it, run it down on a rail system on the sugarcane train that you may have seen in town. They would boil that cane off at that refinery, make raw sugar, and now ship that raw sugar to the mainland for further production. And so the thing with sugarcane, it's going to be one of the most intensive crops in the world to grow, requiring large quantities of fertilizer and large quantities of water. If you guys look around here today, you're probably thinking there's not much water around, right? A lot of dead grass around. We just had a fire up on this hillside about a month and a half ago. So that's because it is very dry here, right? Lahaina is classified as a desert. So we're going to average about 10 inches of rain per year here. Not very much at all. Now if we look up to our left, we're going to see the West Maui Mountains. Now in Hawaiian that is Mauna Kahalavai, which translates into the holding place of water. So just right up there in those valleys, that's going to be the 9th wettest place in the entire world. They're going to average about 350 to 400 inches of rain every year. It's a pretty stark contrast to this low-lying desert. So naturally, these sugarcane companies are down here. They need a lot of water to grow all that cane. So in the 1840s, they started hiking back up in those valleys, putting pipes in the ground, building dams, creating a water infrastructure. And now this was all fine for the sugarcane company. They now had all the water they needed, but it started to displace a lot of the water from those valleys. And now Hawaiians have been living up in those valleys for hundreds of years, living off the land, feeding their families. So when they started taking all that water, unfortunately, a lot of the Hawaiians then had to leave. They no longer had water. Eventually, the families that did not choose to leave were then dragged off their properties by the sugarcane companies with the police in hand. So this went on for quite some time, right? 150 years of sugarcane, 150 years of stealing land, stealing water. However, in 1999, this company was forced to close their doors. One, due to competition overseas, it became cheaper to not grow it in the middle of the Pacific. And two, the tourism industry. So tourism really started to expand after World War II. Now these guys that were working these hot fields every day, breaking their back, realized they could serve the tourism industry, not work quite as hard. So when they closed their doors, they were able to return some of these lands to the Hawaiians. However, you and your family had to come up with a little piece of paper stating your family owned that land. And of course, when Hawaiians were divvying up lands hundreds of years ago, they didn't pass out little pieces of paper. So unfortunately, a lot of these lands up in that valley were forever lost, never to be returned to their rightful owners. Now, some pretty dark history there, guys. Kind of a bummer to talk about, but it is super important to talk about, as it plays a big role in the politics, culture, and landscape here in Lahaina. Now, we'll lighten up the mood a little bit. We're going to look off to the right now. We're going to start seeing our big, green, beautiful oasis over there. Well, that is our cacao farm. What this is, we call this an agroforest. An agroforest is a forest, but it was built by a man, designed by man with the intention of agriculture. So I mentioned before, our cacao trees are highly susceptible to, one, direct sunlight, which we have a ton of here in the desert, and two, strong winds. Now we get some 70 to 80 mile per hour gusts that are going to come out of those valleys behind us. So in order to have success with these trees, we had to build them a habitat to live in. We had to plant them a forest. If we put them out here in the desert, they would die in the same day. So you're going to see all these barrier trees along the outside, all making up this forest. And I'll make sure I name some of those when we get in here. And now if we look off to our left, we're going to peek in through our little hedge trees. We're going to start seeing our little cacao babies soaking up that sunshine, ready to make us some chocolate. And so in building this forest, on average, it's going to stay about 10 to 15 degrees cooler in the middle here than it would be the surrounding desert. A little break for you guys used to that cold weather right now. So I'm going to pull up here, guys. I'm going to hop out. I'll grab that door, let you guys out. And we're going to for a quick little walk around. And of course, we'll get to go up and eat some chocolate. Sure. Yeah, a lot of it is too, like, we have hard water here in Lahaina, right? So a lot of it's just going to be that kind of mineral stuck to it, right?
Right. Thank you.
No worries.